Well, thanks for joining me today, my friends. I am so glad you stopped by. You have reached NeedleBugg. My name is Karen, and if this is your first time here, thank you so very much for stopping by and giving this channel a chance. It's a channel mostly about cross stitch with some hard hanger embroidery, and mainly I do tutorials and stitch with me's. Occasionally a work in progress review, but those are really kind of few and far between. It's more stitch with me's and tutorials. So I'm glad you happened by. And for those of you who have been coming back and going along with all my craziness, thank you and welcome back. Today I thought we'd do a stitch with me, and I am working on God Shed His Grace. And of course, I should have put a picture up here, and I didn't, but it's the picture you saw in the opening of the video. That's what we're working on today. So let's have some fun stitching. So grab your stitching, grab a beverage, and let's sit down and have a stitch. I hope my head is not going to get in the way of the camera because it's precariously positioned right above my forehead. Yeah, it was a bit of a challenge today to get this set up. I don't know. You guys that have been coming back for a while, you know me. There is always a technical challenge, and today was no different. In order to screencast my tablet so you can see chart, just was not cooperating. I don't know what is wrong. However, I can show you what I did with this chart. It is monstrous, to say the least. It is huge. So rather than do it as one giant, and I mean giant because I'm doing it on 20 count, and mainly I do 20 count anymore because it's just pretty much a comfort thing, and it's less strain on my eyes. Yes, I've gone back and tried 28 and 32 and all of that, and I've had glasses readjusted. A lot of you already know that. I don't know, I'm just getting to the point where my comfort zone really lays with the 20 count. 22 count, I don't know. I'm just not a fan of it. I've done a lot of stuff on 22 count, but I'm just not loving it at the moment. And anyone that knows me knows that I say this week, and it could be totally different next week. Totally different. So let me mark off these few. I guess it helps, Karen, if you highlight the correct color. See, I told you, bloopers. But let me show you the mock-up of this, because what I did, oh, Karen. What I did is I put the chart into Good Notes. And it's not going to, okay, I can show you here. It's not going to let me do it. I put it into Good Notes and I pulled out the pages for just one section. And I divided it so that I'm going to do 3 panels. And I divided it so that this, if you can see that, it should be, oh, it's not going to project my cover on the screen, but panels 1, 2, 3, and 1 to 5, because there's 15 pages across. So pages 1 to 5, and then straight down from there will be 1 panel. Okay, this will be 1 panel. The middle panel will be pages 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, and straight down. So you see how the middle one will get this area between the house and this barn, shed, whatever it is. And it will get most of that except for a little bit back here, page 71 and 86. It's not going to get that, but it will get the predominance of this building. And then the last panel will be pages 11 through 15, which will just be the trees. Okay. That panel I will or maybe will not do, but what I thought I'd do is put them then and frame them as 3 separate pictures, or put them on a quilt as 3 separate panels or something to that effect. But the nice thing is, if you do this section, if I do this first panel of pages 1 through 5 and straight down, and I decide I'm tired of it and I don't want to do the second panel, this in itself is a beauteous picture. Beautiful picture. If I decide to do this panel and this panel, that in itself is a beautiful picture. So at any point, I could stop and still have it be a really, really nice piece of art to frame or do whatever I decide to do with it at that point in time. But that's my plan for it, is to divide it into 3 panels. And right now I'm working on panel number 1. Now I'm also doing something a little bit different in that normally I start at the top and work down. Normally. On this particular piece, I'm going to start at the bottom, and that's where this is, the bottom left corner. Okay, bottom left corner, bottom left corner. And I'm going to work up and out. Now, you say, Erin, that's not like you at all. Why is that? You don't normally do that. No, I don't. I don't normally do that at all. Look, my head's getting in there. Sorry. No, I don't normally do that at all. But there is logic to the madness. Logic to the madness is, in order to do this panel on 20 count fabric, 20 count gridded Aida cloth, this panel is going to be, are you ready? 21 inches wide. My fabric needs to be 21 inches wide by 36 inches high. Now think about that for a moment. Yeah, think about that just for a moment. If you start at the top and work top down, okay, now remembering that this is 36 inches from top to bottom. Think about all of that fabric at the top being stitched by the time you get to the bottom. Think about unthreading your needle. Think about how heavy is that going to be? Okay, if you're stitching on a scroll frame, that's different. Oh, that's the wrong thread. I'm at this one. If you're stitching on a scroll, that's not an issue. However, moi does not normally stitch on a scroll frame. So, if you are a hooper, or a Q snapper, such as I am, and you're holding a hoop down here at the bottom with 30 plus inches of stitched fabric up there at the top, how long are you going to stitch? How long are you going to be able to hold that so that you can stitch without being extremely tired? Even if you put it on, say, a Lowry stand in your hoop, you still have all that excess stitched fabric at the top, which adds. Okay, think about how heavy all that stitched fabric can be. Therefore, my logic said to me, or my convoluted logic of sometimes I have and sometimes I don't, says, why not? And my friend Barb did this with her bath time. Why not start at the bottom? So as you're stitching and you have, wait, I just put that, oh no, I didn't. Hold on here, hold on a second. Oh, I did put that there. Okay, I went to the right place. Sorry about that. Yeah, so as you're stitching from the bottom up, all your excess fabric that's stitched is going to be at the bottom and is going to be in your lap. So if for example, you're working on a hoop, all that excess you'll be holding in your lap, and you're not going to be holding it up here as you're trying to stitch. So that was my logic to say I'm just going to start at the bottom and work up, which once again is a new and interesting way to do things. So once again, it is the age-old, let's experiment. let's experiment and see what we get or how it goes. I stitched that already. I forgot to mark it off. Okay, so now what I am doing is, once again, parking is not really my friend. I don't know, once again, can I just say, and you can call me out on it next video. But once again, I'm kind of over it. I'm really kind of over it. I want to do it. I want to love it. I understand all the perks and the benefits and the loveliness of parking, but I don't know. My last nerve gets a little bit annoyed. So, what I'm doing this time, or for now, is I'm basically kind of sort of maintaining a diagonal, but I'm basically sort of kind of finishing a thread. Okay, so if I come down this diagonal with a color, and I still have a fair amount of thread left, then I'm going to go up the next one until either I run out of that symbol or I run out of thread, whichever comes first, or I just plain get tired of that color. There's no rhyme or reason to my stitching, ladies and gentlemen. And I do believe that the majority of you have figured that out already. You just never quite know what you're going to find when you come to one of my Stitch With Me videos. It's probably always going to be different. I'm probably always going to be using a different technique. It's just, it is what it is. But that brings up an interesting subject. I was reading, was it on Facebook? I read that someone was asking, and my thought was, oh my. Not oh my, that it was a bad question, but oh my, to put all that into an answer would be a monumental task. Someone was asking for a list of all the different ways to stitch a full coverage. I mean, I think she, if I remember right, she specifically asked all the different ways to stitch a heaven and earth design. However, I, in my head, broadened that to all the different ways to stitch a full coverage design. That's not where I am. I think I just went to the wrong spot. Hold on. Frog. That's what happens when I talk and stitch at the same time. It's all right. It's only one stitch, easily fixed. And I thought, oh my, to make a list of all the different ways was not a terrible, a monument. Well, it's a big list, I guess, but it's a doable thing. But then to add to that list I took it as the pros and the cons of each of the different techniques. Wow, that's a job. That's a job and a half. So I thought, wouldn't that be a good topic for a stitch with me? I think I have some stitches marked on my chart here that I didn't actually stitch. But we'll fix that too. I thought, wow, that will be an excellent topic for a stitch with me. So, pardon me while I fudge just a smidge. Because guess what? This is background, and I don't worry about fudging in background so much. I just don't. It's not the hill I'm going to die on. So let's think about that. What are some of the ways to stitch a full coverage? Or some of the terms we have given to the ways to stitch a full coverage. So immediately the ones that come to my mind are, let me grab a drink here. Immediately I think about cross country. And lots of people out there stitch cross country. They'll pick a color and they'll stitch that color. Well, there's several different kinds of cross country. So not only do we have different techniques, we have different ways of performing those techniques. Okay, so cross country, some people just stitch a small area, pick a color, stitch all of that color within that area. Okay, once again, I was using markup and I transferred this back into Pattern Keeper, and I think I marked some stitches that I didn't actually stitch yet. So I'm just kind of feeling my way here a little bit, but that's okay. Some people do cross country, like I said, within a given area, and they'll stitch all of one color, and then they'll pick the next color, and the next color, and the next color until they've completed everything within that area. That's up 1, 2 line. And then once that area is complete, then they'll move to another area and do the same thing. There are those cross-country stitchers that color complete within a page. So they'll pick a color. They'll do all of that color within a page. When they're done with the color, they'll move to the next color. And they'll do all of that next color within the page until they have the whole page filled in, and then they'll move on to the next page. Then there's the cross-country stitcher that does what we've called extreme cross-country. where they will pick a color, whether it be the color with the most stitches, whether it be the color with the least stitches, whether it will be a color in between. And they will stitch that color for the entire piece, all over the whole shebang. They will stitch that color. And somehow I have myself a little fluffled here. I thought I had this all straightened out. Okay, let me go back and fix this. La, la, la. That's okay. Those are okay. These are not here. This is not here. Oh, I see what I did. Okay. Okay. I think I'm okay now. There we go. Yeah, then I can't think of who it was. There were a couple stitchers that I've watched their floss tubes, and they stitched all the black throughout the whole entire piece. And now they're going back and they're filling in all of that black, all the other colors, but they have the black to work off of as a base. So they have all those stitches that they can count off of, and they have that to anchor their thread in. So yeah, that's another way to do it. So once they color, in fact, I watched a lady, oh, what the heck was her name? She was posting on Facebook. Was it the Extreme Cross Country Facebook group? And I'm so sorry, I can't exactly remember. But she did exactly that, Extreme Cross Country. And she went color by color by color and did it through the entire chart. And to watch it come alive that way is really, really interesting. I found it quite interesting and actually quite a lot of fun to watch. Yeah, it was really quite neat to watch it all come alive. Yeah, I missed some stitches here, so we're just gonna do this. I see what I did. I marked these as stitched and they weren't. Yeah, I just really enjoyed watching that. I wish I was brave enough to do that, but as you see, and this is probably because I moved it from one app to another, where I, for all intents and purposes, mismarked some stitches. But once again, like I said, this is the background down in the grassy greens around the pond, and truth be told, if there's some stitches that are maybe a different color, it really doesn't matter. I really am not going to worry. and I will challenge you to pick them out when it's done. Okay, if it ever gets done. So anyway, that is one method of stitching that a lot of people will use. And then we have, of course, diagonal stitching. And how many different ways are there to do diagonal stitching these days? A lot. When I first started videoing diagonal stitching, I hold on a sec, gotta move my chart here. My friend Barb had watched Brian split stitch, and he does his diagonal stitching on the diagonal, but stitches vertically on the diagonal. And Barb picked that up right away. I had a bit of a problem with it in that I just couldn't, at that time, make my head work around stitching vertically. It just was not computing at that time. Since I can do it now, but as those of you that have been here a while know, Karen, she switches all the time. So I came up with, and that's how I started my YouTube channel, of showing people how to take that concept, same concept, but just flip it a little bit and stitch your rows, stitch down your diagonal horizontally as opposed to vertically. So there's another way to diagonal stitch. Then, after a while, well, of course, people got to the point of, oh my God, that's so slow. And myself included. I like to see progress a little bit faster than that. Okay, that's just my thing. I'm just adjusting here a little bit because my back hurts a little bit. So I'm trying to get this so that, there we go. So, of course, people, not everybody wants to stitch row by row by row, by stitch by stitch by stitch. And, there's Handwork Maniac's daughter, Boss Daughter. I'm sorry, Brenda, I cannot remember your daughter's first name. I know it. It's on the tip of my tongue if you could read it for me. But she stitches hers in columns instead of diagonal. She stitches horizontal rows within that column, but she stitches stitch by stitch, or some semblance thereof, and works her way down the row, zigzagging, because of course she does the one X at a time. So it's zigzagging down the row. Needle Ninja also does that. She'll zigzag down the row. So that's another way to do it. It's hard to see what I mean. It's hard to, does it have an advantage or disadvantage? It's hard to say. the advantage of some of these, or we want the advantage to be in some of these methods and altering the way we're doing things, is to make our stitching easier and more relaxing, but also to stitch in a manner that we're not getting column lines. So, and again, that just depends on the person who's doing the stitching. Some people can stitch in one method and never ever have a column line. The next person can use that exact same method and have column lines. So, some of it's the method, some of it's the personal way that you stitch, and so many factors that go into it. But those are two methods of stitching on the diagonal. Then there's Bonnie, is it Bonnie from Newfoundland, where she color completes within the whole diagonal. If she has extra thread, she'll do what I just did here and start going up the next diagonal. And then she takes the next color completes until she has the whole diagonal done. Any excess, she starts going up. Now, whether she then continues to work up, I'm not sure, or whether she goes back up to the top and down. I can't answer that question, but that is yet another method. That's sort of kind of what I'm doing now, because as I said, I really, with the exception of this one that's here, I really am preferring not to park these days. So I'm looking for ways to not have to do that. And this is what I am choosing to do at the moment. Again, it will probably change till you see me again, because that's just what I do. So there's another method of stitching on the diagonal. Then you can do what Gemma Stitches does. And Gemma has her own very unique way of stitching, which I find extremely fascinating to watch. And she uses that principle of always coming up in an empty hole whenever possible, and going down in holes that already have threads in them whenever possible. And she may very well have multiple threads of the same color that she's working with. So she's doing the diagonal, but she's following the color at the same time, is the easiest way to explain it. And that lady can stitch. Let me tell you what, she gets a phenomenal amount of stitching done. And like I said, I truly, truly enjoy watching her also. But that's still another method. I want to end this on the, well, no, I don't. It's a little too, this 20 count Aida cloth is a bit stiff to work with. So I'm just going to pin stitch this one. Yeah, so that's yet another method. Then let me see what else is there. I had a whole list in my, well, not a long list, but I had a list in my head that is now, you know what, and then when you try and think of them all, they escape you. They're stitching in columns. Some people will stitch down the column, down one column, up the next column. They may go row by row. They may color complete in the column, There's diagonal stitching, doing blocks on the diagonal. Teresa Little Stitcher does blocks on the diagonal. So I think each one, the advantages are individual for each person. So what I might find advantageous in a method might not be what you would find advantageous in that method. Objectively, we want our stitches to look nice. We want to not have lines, whether they be column lines or page lines or let me see. I think the rest of this column just gets filled in with black. So this will be this stitch. This stitch here was already stitched. I just didn't mark it off. So I am going to unhighlight these, and then I can just mark everything as I stitch it. And of course, I switch back and forth between markup and pattern keeper, and right now I'm in the pattern keeper. So there's, it's easy. Well, it isn't so easy to sit here and say, oh, these are the different methods. You can list the different methods, but what I find advantageous about a method might not be what you find advantageous about a method. The goal is, like I said, to find the way that's comfortable for you, the way that you enjoy, the way that's going to produce the result that you want. Obviously, none of us want lines of any kind. And that being said, even though when I first started doing the videos on diagonal stitching, my big thing was, oh yes, it's going to avoid column lines. It's going to avoid page lines. Well, yeah, it does that. It does that. But by the same token, now you have the potential to get a diagonal line. So what did we really do? We really just traded off one for the other. I had diagonal lines on my stitch retreat. Fortunately, I was able to get a lot of it out when I washed and ironed it. And then the framer was able to pull a lot of it out that it's not even really noticeable at this point. But the goal was, by stitching diagonally, that, oh yeah, I'm not going to get any lines. I don't have to worry about lines, la, 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 la. When in fact, yeah, you do. Because not only is it the way you stitch, it's your tension. Does stitching one stitch at a time avoid the line? Probably. Does staggering your edge so that you don't have straight up and down lines avoid the line? Sure it does. However, make note of this. And I wonder how many people that do this notice that it's happening. The people that do, for example, a sawtooth edge, and that's how they stagger to avoid a straight line. They do a very regimented sawtooth edge. So that is like stitching over by 1, then stitching over the line by 2, then by 3, then 2, then 1, then 2, then 3, so that you get the jaggers down, say, your column line. Well, that's a very strict, regimented, consistent, persistent line. How many of you can actually see that sawtooth when it's done? So really the only way, in my opinion only, not the only way, for me, the best way to avoid getting any kind of line is just the more random you're stitching when it comes to lines, page breaks, diagonals, columns, the more random it is, the less likely you are to have a line. Just like when you stitched, just like the people that stitch cross country, they don't get lines. They don't get lines. Oh, that's the other method I thought of, lines. Okay, I have flight of ideas sometimes. Lines, the other method, Allison has been advocating for, and good for her, is the Royal Rose. And a lot of people are really, really liking the Royal Rose. So that's another way to stitch your heaven and earth design. I mean, that involves parking. It involves ending, I think your columns are called towers. And when you're ending your threads, you end it in the next, in a tower to the right, so that you're stitching over it. And the theory is that that's going to prevent you from getting a column line. So far I've not noticed anybody getting column lines. But that being said, again, it also has to do with people's tension. So I don't think it really matters how many threads you move over into another, or end over in another tower. If your tension is extremely tight, you're still running a risk. But that doesn't matter. That isn't specific to that method. That's specific to any method. And the more I see stitch pieces and talk with people and all of that good stuff, the more I become a proponent of, your best bet is don't do anything consistently. In more ways than one. Don't do anything consistently. Stagger everything. Just do what feels right. And you can see here, I'm not making a perfectly straight line. I'm just staggering. And right now the color is going outside. So outside of that diagonal line. So why? Here, let's mark off what I did. I finished, hold the phone. I finished this. I did this. I did here. That's up in that one. I did here, this. I went out to here. I have myself all messed up, but anyway, I've been going. Okay, I'm not quite down this far. Take these back off. I'm not down this far. I'm marking I should do this just each row as I do it. But don't you know that that would just be too easy? So I am down here and 1, 2, 3. Okay, I went to here and I went to here. And this one, take this off, but I'm going to be doing that next. This one, I'm going to go out to here. So I'm not doing anything consistent at all. That's stitched. That's what was messing me up. So I don't think I'm going to get any lines. But again, if I go up, show you up here a little bit further. Yeah, I worked up this way with the color. So I really am just kind of jumping around. So I think the whole bottom line is back to the age-old saying, and just like with anything that you do, there are many paths to the same destination. There are many roads to the same destination. Take, for example, I live between Harrisburg and Philadelphia. There are many ways for me to go to Harrisburg. There are many ways for me to go to Philadelphia. Will it be the same way that my next door neighbor goes? It may or may not be. But are we both going to get there? Sure we are. So there's many ways to stitch your full coverage piece. Your destination is a finish. Are you going to get there? Hopefully so. Hopefully so. But you may not get there the same way that I get there, or the same way that a stitching friend of yours gets there. That's the reality. That's life. The bottom line is you do what works for you. You do what makes, most importantly, beyond anything else, if it doesn't make you happy, find another way. If you are not enjoying what you do or how you are doing it, find another way. Because there are many paths to the same destination. You don't have to sit and struggle with a way that you're not enjoying. And that's another thing. There are people that feel, and I'm not saying that this is right or wrong, I'm just saying this is what I have heard and seen. There are a lot of people out there who think, well, I started this piece doing diagonal stitching, so I have to do my whole piece doing diagonal stitching, and I have to wait to try X, Y, or Z technique until I start a new one. My answer to that is no, you don't. No, you don't. It does not matter what technique you use. They are all going to look the same on the front. Every one of them. Now, if you switch from full cross to tent, well, yeah, it may look different. But I'm talking if you're doing full cross and you're doing cross country and you're deciding, you know what, I'm just getting too lost. That is not working for me. I can't do that. I'm not happy. I'm making too many mistakes, or whatever the scenario is that goes through your head. Change it. Change it to something else. If you're doing diagonal stitching and you're stitching row by row, stitch by stitch, zigzagging down the diagonal, and you're getting frustrated because it's too slow, because whatever reason, mostly because it's getting too slow, mostly because, I had enough of parking, I'm over it. I said that before and I've gone back, so get ready, I might go back again. But whatever the reason, change it. Do something different. The only way you're going to be able to tell that you did something different is by looking at the back. They all look the same on the front. The only way you can tell is looking at the back. My Stitchers Retreat has, I'm going to say, just about every method of stitching that I know I had used on that. And you cannot tell from the front. The only way you can tell is from the back. The neat thing about that is, and I thought about doing this and I didn't, just because because it was already expensive enough to frame it. And I thought, well, you know what, if I ask them to keep the back where you can see it, like frame it that you can see it from both sides, that was going to get even more expensive. So I didn't do it. But really, if you think about it, and you've tried different methods and you've stitched different ways, you stitched on the diagonal. Oh yeah, tired of that. Let's do cross country. Oh yeah, tired of that. Let's do Royal Rose. Oh yeah, tired of that. Okay. What does that tell you on the back? Well, what it tells you is it's a documentation of your journey. It shows you your stitching journey. Which is quite, really quite remarkable. But you have record of the journey. And I can look at the back. Well, I can't now because it's all closed up, but I could look at the back and I could see, oh, okay, here's where X, Y, or Z was happening. And I said, I just can't deal with this at this time, so I'm going to stitch this way because I like that way. It's less stressful that way, blah, blah, blah. It tells you the journey and the different paths that you took. And think about it. Do you always stay on the same path in life? Or does your path change? Does your goal that you want to reach change? Is the destination different? Therefore, the path becomes different. Happens with your stitching. Just think about that. But anyway, I hope you found that interesting, enlightening, or whatever. I had fun thinking about that. I had fun thinking about, all the different There are many more techniques besides just the ones that I mentioned. I'm sure there's many more out there. Those were the ones that quickly came to mind. And everybody stitches quite differently. And everybody, well, I'm speaking for me. I am always changing it up. Do I get bored with one way? Yeah. Do I want to do something different for a while? Yeah. Anybody that follows this channel and knows me knows that that is always the case. You never quite know what you're going to find when you stop here. But hopefully, it keeps it interesting. And hopefully, that's one of the reasons you come back, just to see, what crazy thing is she up to this time? Because I can pretty much guarantee you that's exactly what's going to happen. So with that, my friends, I think this has gotten to be quite long enough. We're already past an hour, and I know that there are so many people out there to watch. So it's like, I don't have enough time to watch them all. But hopefully you found this interesting. Hopefully for those of you that are new here, you found something that you like, and you will continue to come back and join the fun. Just one more note, a little bit of housekeeping for those of you that have been doing the Learn the Basics of Hardanger. There has been one last video posted for that series of videos. It's how to cut your piece out of the fabric. I must apologize. I was going to do a video of where we actually stitched the piece together from start to finish. However, true to form, true NeedleBugg ways of happening, I recorded that video. I recorded that video in segments. I did not convert the segments from the recording format to the MP3 or whatever it is format that I need to put it up to YouTube, because I was getting so many of the videos in that format. And actually, I had to record portions of it several times till I got it right. And my place on my drive, well, my drive was getting a little full of all those videos that had been converted, and I really didn't need those that were, I forget what the dot blah 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 was. So Karen went in and very overzealously cleaned it out and deleted the videos that were converted, and inadvertently deleted the videos that I recorded and did not convert yet for the last video of that series. Yeah. So needless to say, that took a long time to do because we were actually stitching a piece together. And it has been a little bit of time since that should have been up, and it wasn't. So I put today up, or I will make it public, and as soon as I'm done here, it's just explaining how to cut your finished piece to cut the excess fabric away. With those videos, you can complete a simple piece, and most any piece, independently by just following the steps in those videos. So hopefully you find them helpful. So my apologies to people that are taking that, are looking for that session and that series, that last final step. It will be up as soon as I finish here. And yeah, I didn't have the wherewithal to start all over again and film every step to stitch it together with you again. So you have all the steps. It's all in those, 6 videos. You will be fine. If you have questions, please just send me a message and I will help you. Okay? So with that, my friends, I hope each and every one of you have a wonderful weekend. Have a wonderful Easter holiday. Enjoy your family. Spend time together. And with that, you know what I'm going to say. I end every video this way. The only rules in cross stitch are the ones you set for yourself. So with that, my friends, until next time, have a great day and bye-bye for now.